your tire off.
What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name's Micah, and today I'm going to tell you about the full Toce exhaust system and the Lloyd's tune that we just got on our Indian FTR. I was already completely in love with this motorcycle, and now with the full exhaust and the tune, it is silly. This thing is silly, to say the least. So we're just going to talk about those two things, what that kind of does for the Indian FTR, the price, the details of each. They really help to unlock this bike's full potential, so I can't wait to tell you all about them. So without further ado, let's rip into it. Now, these Indian FTRs are powered by a 1203cc American V-twin. I have heard these things with a full exhaust system before, and it is the best sounding V-twin motorcycle I've ever heard, hands down. And I have looked up every video and exhaust clip I could find, and the one that I liked the most for this bike was the full Toce exhaust. Toce, however you say it, I'm gonna call it Toce for the sake of this video. Now, earlier model Indian FTRs had a slightly different exhaust setup than the later year models. So the early years, the headers came down and they went into the catalytic converter. There was an exhaust clamp right there. So you were able to remove the catalytic converter on those early model years. And then the mufflers had a clamp and connected to that catalytic converter. So you had a couple different options. You know, you could switch out just the muffler. You could do a system that eliminated the catalytic converter too while retaining your factory headers. Well, in 2022, I believe it was, Indian switched up the exhaust. So suddenly the catalytic converter is one with the headers. There was no way to remove that from your factory headers. So if you have a later model year Indian FTR, you pretty much have to get a full exhaust system if you want to eliminate that catalytic converter. Now, our bike, I had pulled off the factory muffler and just given our bike a few revs so it had the factory headers to the catalytic converter and nothing beyond that. And it was still so quiet and so corked up. You know, those catalytic converters on these things must be super restrictive. So after hearing that, I knew that there was no slip-on exhaust that was gonna give me the sound that I wanted. So knowing that the full Toce exhaust system on these was the best sound, that was the sound and exhaust that I wanted, we broke down and picked up one of these. Now, these are not a cheap exhaust system by any means. There is a couple different versions of Toce full exhaust for the FTRs. There's a low mount, which we have here, and then a high mount exhaust. So the high mount exhaust has headers that come off the cylinders, they curl, and the whole exhaust goes up along the tail. Your muffler sits kind of right next to the tail light. Those are cool. It gives the bike almost like a retro cafe racer type look, but I preferred the low mount exhaust, having the exhaust kind of jet out just right under that swing arm there. And it's a little bit nicer if you were to ever carry a passenger. They don't have to worry about a hot exhaust right next to their leg. Now, for the low mount exhaust, you're gonna get a few different options there. You get two different options for header colors. So you can do satin brushed headers or you can do polished chrome headers. We elected to do the satin kind of brushed, almost like a matte finish header. You know, we kind of have a black theme going on. We don't have a ton of chrome on our bike, and so I preferred the look of the satin. The polished headers are gonna be a couple bucks more, and then once you get to the muffler, you do get two options there as well. You can do this satin black muffler, or there is a polished chrome muffler. So I would imagine if you did the polished chrome headers, you would probably do the matching polished chrome muffler. And then Toce does have an option that you can add a decibel killer to this exhaust too that would slip in the backside of the muffler there, which you might consider that if you're thinking about this exhaust. We do not have the decibel killer in ours. It is just the headers to the muffler straight through, and this is the loudest motorcycle that I have ever owned. I mean, you can hear this thing coming from a mile away. It's annoying, it's awesome, my neighbors hate me, I smile ear to ear. So it has its pros and cons, but my goodness, when I'm out cruising, you know, on the strip and other bikes, cool cars are there, when I crack that throttle, my goodness, it breaks necks, just snaps necks. Everyone looks and is like, what is that noise coming from? It is so awesome. So this exhaust, as I bought it, with the satin headers, with the black muffler, you know, it was $1,749. The shipping was $38, I believe. So you're about into this full exhaust system for $1,800 all said and done. I mean, that is so much money for an exhaust system. And it's just because these bikes are kind of more niche. You know, there's not a ton of exhaust options out there that everybody really gets competitive with their pricing. But Toce makes great quality exhaust, right? You don't have to worry about that. It is a full system, which for pretty much any motorcycle, even some of your Japanese nakeds or sport bikes, things like that, you're gonna be into a full system for around $1,000 or more. So at the end of the day, I guess full exhaust systems are just pricey, but they can add a ton of performance and a wonderful sound to your bike. So it is what it is. Now, as far as installing that full exhaust system, it's fairly easy. I mean, you're pulling off your heat shield here. There is a heat shield up front on the factory header, which the Toce exhaust does not utilize that front heat shield. You'll do away with that, but you'll just have a factory exhaust clamp here. So your rear header is gonna pull off from right there. The front one is gonna unbolt straight from the cylinder there. And then your headers will come down. You're gonna have a mid pipe or a link pipe here. So it hooks into this rear header right here, and then it hooks into the front one just back there. They send you a new mount bracket for the rear, and so it's gonna mount up to the same spot, one of the same spots where your factory muffler mounts to. And it all goes together really slick. You know, there was nothing hard or difficult about the install of this Toce system. You know, with it having multiple pieces to it, you know, you're gonna kind of have to adjust and kind of line those up where you want, you know, make sure you have the right gap in between these headers that you want. So you'll arrange those, kind of arrange your link pipe or mid pipe there so that your muffler sits in the right spot. Just basic tools is all you need. You know, a couple different sockets for your ratchet, a couple different hex or Allen keys. Very, very easy install. I think Toce even has a video on installing this full system on YouTube here. Now, once you get this full exhaust system on your FTR, you're absolutely going to need a tune or a flash afterwards. Now, some bikes you can get away with throwing a full exhaust system and not tuning it or flashing it. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not gaining any power from your fuel-injected motorcycle when you throw a full exhaust system on it and you don't do any sort of a tune or flash afterwards. And you may even lose a little bit of power because your bike's probably running leaner than it should. These FTRs are a little bit different. So if you put a full exhaust system on them, they're just gonna run like complete crap. So you absolutely need a tune. You're gonna have to spend more money. Awesome, right? But the finished product is totally worth it. Stay with me here. So as far as tunes and flashes for Indian motorcycles go, you can research, look up everything you can find, and they will all point you in one direction, and that is to Lloyd's Garage. So Lloyd's Garage is like the premier #1 tuner for Indian motorcycles in the country, in the world rather. They have really just nailed their tunes down and dialed them in. And it kind of works like any other tune or flash. You know, when you send your ECU off to be tuned, you're just gonna tell them what year your bike is, what modifications you've done to it, and the tune that they put on your ECM is going to be for those mods so that your bike can get the most out of those mods and produce the most power possible. Now, Lloyd's Garage works with Indian motorcycle dealerships, and they have remote tuning centers. So some Indian motorcycle dealerships are signed up to be a remote tuner for Lloyd's. The Indian dealership that I bought our motorcycle from was one of those. So I just took our ECM out of our bike. It's extremely easy. It's right under this plastic airbox cover. You've got 2 plugs that you just unhook, and that's it. So I just brought my ECM to the dealership, and in 1 hour, our bike had the tune on it. So then I just came home, put the ECU back in our bike, installed the exhaust, and we're ready to rip. Now, if you don't live near an Indian motorcycle dealership that is a remote tuning center for Lloyd's, what you'll do is just mail your ECM off to Lloyd's Garage in St. Paul, Minnesota. And you can Google Lloyd's Garage, look up their tuning. They tell you everything that you need to send them. The Lloyd's tune is gonna be $499. Now, you do have to cover the shipping of your ECU to them, and you do have to print a return shipping label that they can use to ship it back to you. So all said and done, you're probably wrapped up into it for $540, $550, you know, mailing it off to Lloyd's. Otherwise, if you take it to an Indian dealership, they're gonna charge you that $500, but they're also gonna charge you 1 labor hour as well. So depending on what your labor hour rates are at your Indian motorcycle dealership, you know, you're probably gonna get your bike all done for, you know, 600 some, but it will be much quicker than mailing it to Lloyd's and waiting for Lloyd's to tune it and mail it back. So a couple different options there. Now, the only performance modification we did to our bike was just that full Toce exhaust. After a bunch of research, I found that the stock intake, the air intake on these Indian FTRs is not a bottleneck for power whatsoever. I found that nobody was gaining any extra horsepower by messing with or switching out their air intake for something more high flow, something bigger. So Indian has put an awesome intake on these bikes from the factory. So regardless of what exhaust you get, that air intake is never gonna be a bottleneck. I would just leave it. I would rock the stock air intake on your Indian FTR. Other Indian models probably are different. Now, your factory power numbers for the Indian FTR, you know, just stock, before tune, before exhaust, anything like that, you know, on paper it says that they make 120 horsepower and 87 foot-pounds of torque. But to the rear wheel, you're only getting about 110 horsepower and about 80 foot-pounds of torque. But with a full Toce exhaust system and the Lloyd's tune, your bike is gonna dyno and put to the ground 123 horsepower, and get ready for this, 102 foot-pounds of torque to the ground. So if you know anything about horsepower and torque numbers, you know that numbers like that on a bike that weighs 500 pounds, that is a rowdy combination, to say the least. And after getting our ECU back from the Lloyd's tune, after putting the exhaust on, firing it up, after ripping around on our bike for the last couple days, yeah, it is absolutely faster. You know, but what that Lloyd's tune does as well is it really smooths out and makes that power band a lot more linear. So your motorcycle, it's funny because it's smoother and it's gentler and nicer when you want it to be, but it is just way rowdier and more powerful when you really want to rip on it. So it is the best of both worlds. I mean, it's just easier and more controllable in the low RPMs, and it just screams louder when you really wind it up. And we have a base model FTR, so it has no traction control whatsoever. And after the tune and exhaust, this thing is, you have to watch it in the corners because that rear end will kick out. This thing will pull up the front end or just burn that rear tire, and you're not even trying. It's awesome, it's dangerous, it's reckless, it's the coolest thing ever. So now I'll fire this bike up for you guys. This is gonna be an icy cold start here, but this bike is just so loud. Without the decibel killer in that Toce exhaust, you might think about that because this thing is so loud, your neighbors, everyone is gonna absolutely hate you. You're gonna love it, I promise. So I'll fire this up, I'll let you guys hear it, and then we'll take it out, we'll gear up, we'll take it for a spin so you guys can kind of see what riding one of these FTRs with a full Toce exhaust and a Lloyd's tune is like. And there's no way that that sound is gonna come through the microphone good. I mean, there's no way that it will sound like it does in person, but I cannot keep revving the motorcycle here on our back porch because the neighbors will absolutely call the police. So now let's gear up, we'll hit the streets, we'll take a little ride on this thing so you can see just how rowdy and fun, how glorious this thing sounds.
All right, we are ready to rip. And rip we shall on this thing. My goodness, it's just, you'll see. It is out of control. This is a rowdy machine. Hopefully you can hear me talking all right over this exhaust. It is just thunderous. Oh my word. That's awesome. Oh, and our little Ford Ranger project. Stick around for a review on that. Oh, lights and grill. I flipped the axle and did different springs, so we dropped it 5 inches. It's gonna be our new motorcycle hauler. Our Dakota was just lifted up too high. Well, we'll drive past our Dakota. The monster truck and then the little one. Kind of funny. You can just hear the sound like reverberating between the houses. And in low RPM here, just idling along. This thing just sounds like a lion. You know how those lions kind of have that deep, slow roar is right when they see their prey? That, or whatever it is. If you watch National Geographic, you know what I'm talking about. Goodness. It just wants to go. I mean, like I said, that throttle response is smoothed out. So like, it's a more linear power band, but at the end of the day, it's just so much power. Yep, we're gonna go. Whoops, coming through. Wow. Gotta close my visor here. It's a little bit chilly today. It's like the first chilly fall morning or afternoon. Oh, we got a Corvette over there. I wonder if we can dance with him. Old man. Oh, he doesn't have a chance. We'd eat him for breakfast. I think we'd eat about everything for breakfast, up to 100 anyways. We'll blow this old Corvette out of the water. Oh man. Not really any downshifting to do, you just hammer on the gas. This V-twin has been so fun and so different because we usually have like inline 4 cylinders, you know, for our sporty or naked bikes, and so going to a V-twin has been, gosh, quite the switch. I mean, it's just where the power hits, you know, it's just so low. Oh my goodness, that sound. It is so awesome. Alright, we'll go from a dig here. It's probably just gonna blow the rear tire off, but whatever. Alright, here we go from a standstill. Full Toce exhaust, Lloyd's tune. Wow, wheelie! This thing is just brutal. In another video, I haven't said it in this video yet, but do not buy an Indian FTR as your first motorcycle. It's just too much, that power. The torque is just so brutal, and it just takes some experience to get used to that. Without the right experience, you will certainly end up 6 feet under. Oh my goodness! Just brutal power out of the corners. Just unbelievable. And we had to stop because a bee flew in our helmet, and I could feel it like buzzing on the top/side of my head. Sometimes that happens, you know, you get the old bee in the helmet. It's always a interesting surprise. But now we're back and we're ready to rock. So we'll kind of go into town here and we'll see if we can't find some other fun vehicles to have fun with. I mean, I love power, don't get me wrong. It is fun to go fast. But I think what I love the most about this motorcycle is the sound now. The sound is like, it's incredible. Best sounding V-twin I ever heard. And it's not like it's even high RPMs that I like. It's the whole rev range. I love the sound of this now in low RPM, at idle, at mid RPM. Holy moly. The D-cell. Fun bike to cruise around on now. That is for dang sure. Oh my goodness. This exhaust just makes you want to rev match every single downshift. So now we're at the mall. There's kind of this covered parking area here. And I always like to take my motorcycles there when I've got exhaust on them and just crack the throttle, you know, once or so. Which I feel bad if there's anybody in there. This is gonna scare them to death. It is so loud. This thing is so loud. There's some people there. There's a nice lady up there. Oh man. That is just as loud as gunshots. Oh my word. You gotta be careful on this bike now. You'll be in the corner, and if you just give it the slightest amount of gas, it will kick out that rear end. I think I'm gonna have to go from a 180 to a 190 rear tire now. Maybe get a little bit more contact pads, because this thing is just, I think it's got too much power and too much torque for a 180. I need more grip. Let's see, we'll be in second gear coming out of the corner. Man, just pulls like you wouldn't believe. Just burned the tire there. Too much torque, couldn't get any traction, which is awesome, I guess. And we're zipping around, zing, zing, oh, diving into the corners. I'll kind of get my weight down lower. Oh my goodness. I mean, you'll hear the motor rev up out of those corners, but you just can't feel that torque just pull you out of it. My Lanta, that is just, I mean, it's rowdy. My favorite words for this bike, oh my gosh, are rowdy, silly, brutal, and uncontrollable. Let's see if we can scare this lady next to us. We scared her. That's funny. Oh man, just blew the rear tire off. No traction. Well, and we'll get into second gear here and we'll see if it wants to burn out or wheelie. Wheelie! It did hook up. Haha, that's awesome. Home sweet home. We made it back in one piece. Gosh, I just feel that in my chest every time I rev it. It's like a shockwave. Wow. Incredible.
Holy moly, guys, that is just so fun. Wow, our Indian FTR is absolutely perfect. It was already perfect. I didn't think it could get any better. And then the full Toce exhaust, the Lloyd's tune, my goodness. Like I said in our other video, this is my favorite motorcycle that I have ever ridden in my entire life. So I'm extremely pleased with the exhaust, with the tune. You know, the exhaust was expensive, the tune was not cheap, and the finished product is simply superb. It's everything I wanted and more. I have gotten so many compliments on this motorcycle, on the way it looks, on the way it sounds. It's incredible. I've never quite ridden a bike that people just gravitate towards like this FTR. And our bike looks a little bit different than a factory one. You know, we've got these custom side tank covers. They're a factory Indian part. I'll put some links in the description to different ones of those, ones that were never offered from the factory. We've got the seat from the Carbon R model, so it has all kinds of different stitching and a different texture, a whole different look. That seat is so awesome. I'll put that in the description as well. And then we took the big step ladder fender that this bike comes with from the factory off. We did a nice little fender eliminator that cost 44 bucks. It's in the description as well. I've got a video on how to do it. But that should about wrap it up for today, guys. So big thanks to Lloyd's Garage for making an awesome tune for this motorcycle. Thanks to Toce for making a wonderful exhaust for us. I reached out to them just to give them a special thanks. And actually, we may be working with Toce in the future, kind of a little partnership for different exhausts for our motorcycles. So that's kind of fun. But anyways, like the video if this helped you out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more. And until next time, have a wonderful night.